The Varnari attack was not an act of war. It was an execution. The explosion had shattered the Galactic Council's grand spire, sending fire and debris raining down onto the heart of the most powerful government in the universe. Hundreds of dignitaries had died instantly. Thousands more were missing. And standing amidst the smoldering ruins, with the weight of the galaxy now pressing down on him, was a single human, Elias Carter. The Galactic Council falls into chaos. The council chamber, once the center of order, was now a battlefield of accusations. Survivors from dozens of species shouted at one another, demanding answers, demanding retribution. The Belittled delegation accused the Krell Dominion of orchestrating the attack. The Krell Dominion blamed humanity, claiming the timing was too convenient. The Sulvar clans threatened to withdraw from the council entirely, calling it a failed institution. The council was crumbling before their very eyes. And at the center of it all, standing amidst the wreckage, Elias knew exactly what had happened. The Varnari Collective had just made their move. A message from the shadows. A small holographic display flickered to life in the ruins of his personal quarters. The message was anonymous, untraceable, just like the last one. It contained 6 words. You should have stayed beneath notice. Elias exhaled slowly. The Varnari had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for humanity to rise just high enough, only to cut them down. And now, they were erasing the evidence. The Galactic Council's vote for war. High Chancellor Varnith of the Belittled stood in the ruins of the Council's main chamber, his expression cold and calculating. This attack cannot go unanswered. The other representatives muttered in agreement. The Galactic Council had only invoked total war 5 times in recorded history. And now they were about to make it 6. Elias watched carefully. Because something was wrong. The Varnari representative was missing. And yet no one was accusing them. Instead, all blame was being redirected toward the Krell Dominion. The Krell roared in outrage, their warlords slamming fists onto the war table. You think we would do this? Prime Warlord Drath growled, his golden eyes narrowing. We do not kill with shadows. We kill with warships. But the council ignored him. The vote was cast. And in less than 5 minutes, the galaxy's largest governing body had declared war on the Krell Dominion. The truth Elias could not ignore. Elias felt a chill crawl down his spine. This was too clean. Too orchestrated. The Varnari had just destroyed the council's greatest symbol of unity, but no one was blaming them. Instead, an entire war had just been declared. Against the wrong enemy. And that was when Elias understood the truth. The Varnari didn't want to destroy humanity. They wanted to use humanity. Because now, the entire galaxy was about to be thrown into war. And while the Krell fought the council, the Varnari would be free to move their pieces into place. Unchallenged. The message that changed everything. Elias was preparing to leave the chamber when a small device was slipped into his hand. He turned sharply, eyes scanning the crowded halls. But whoever had left it was already gone. A secret transmission flashed across the screen. A single voice message. And when Elias played it, his blood ran cold. The hidden war humanity never knew about. The message was not from an ally. It was not from the Krell. It was not from the Council. It was from someone else entirely. A species that should not have been watching this war. A species that had remained hidden for millennia. The message was short. But it changed everything. Human. You have stepped onto a battlefield far older than your species. Pause. The Varnari have played this game before. Another pause. And then. You are not the first species to be used this way. Elias's grip tightened. And you will not be the last. The message ended. Silence. And in that moment, Elias realized that this war, it had never been about humanity at all. This was just one more move in a far older game. And now humanity was on the board. The galaxy was burning. War had been declared. The Krell Dominion and the Grand Galactic Council were already mobilizing fleets, preparing for a war that had been engineered from the shadows. And at the center of it all was humanity. The battle no one wanted. The first shots had already been fired. Council-aligned warships clashed with Krell fleets at the outer rim, and the death toll was rising by the hour. Elias Carter watched the reports in silence, his fingers gripping the console in front of him. The war had barely begun. And yet, it had nothing to do with the real enemy. The Varnari Collective was nowhere to be seen. They had vanished. And that meant they were already winning. Because while the Council and Krell tore each other apart, the Varnari were moving freely. They were using humanity's rise as a distraction. And Elias was done playing their game. Humanity's first move. Elias turned sharply toward his security detail. How many ships do we have? The officer beside him hesitated. Sir, we're diplomats, not a war fleet. Elias's jaw tightened. How many? A brief pause. Then, 3 escort frigates and 1 heavy cruiser. A laughably small force. Against the armadas of the Dominion and the Council, it was nothing. But against the right target? It was everything. The plan that shouldn't work. The Council and the Dominion were focusing all their efforts on each other. That meant the Varnari were operating unchecked. But Elias had one advantage. They weren't expecting humanity to make a move. They thought humans would stay neutral, or worse, get caught up in the war and be erased as collateral damage. But that was their mistake. Elias activated the holographic display, pulling up intelligence reports, hidden signals, intercepted transmissions. There. A Varnari stronghold. A station deep in uncharted space. The place where the real war was being orchestrated. And if Elias was right, then everything humanity needed to expose the Varnari's plan was inside. The mission begins. The human fleet jumped into the void. It was a suicide mission. A small force flying into enemy territory with no guarantee of survival. But Elias wasn't afraid. Because if they didn't act now, humanity would be nothing more than a footnote in someone else's war. And that was unacceptable. The station that shouldn't exist. They found it exactly where the report said it would be. A dark, hulking mass hidden between 2 dying stars. Varnari technology was designed to be undetectable, but humans had learned how to look past their tricks. This wasn't just a base. It was a control center. A place where entire wars were planned and executed. And now, humanity was knocking at the door. The impossible infiltration. Elias and his team boarded the station in silence. No alarms. No alerts. No sign of security. The Varnari were so confident in their secrecy that they had left their stronghold undefended. Another mistake. The truth they didn't want humanity to see. Inside, the station was a fortress of data. Millions of files, encrypted records, communications logs. But one message stood out. A classified order. One that had been issued before humanity had ever joined the Council. Elias read it twice just to be sure he wasn't hallucinating. It was a directive. A Varnari plan to push humanity into the Galactic Council, and then destroy them from within. They had orchestrated everything. From the Council's laughter at humanity's request, to the assassination attempt, to the war between the Krell and the Council. All of it had been designed to serve one purpose. To create a war so devastating that when it was over, the Varnari would be the only ones left standing. And humanity? They were never meant to survive. The enemy that underestimated humanity. Elias closed the data files. His breathing was steady, but his blood was boiling. For centuries, the galaxy had seen humans as nothing. As a weak species. As an irrelevant footnote in history. But now the Varnari knew the truth. Because they had just made the worst mistake possible. They had shown humanity the game they were playing. And now humanity was going to burn their entire strategy to the ground. Elias turned to his team, his expression grim. Transmit everything. The officer hesitated. Sir, if we do this. Do it. Pause. Then the data was sent. Across every channel, every encrypted frequency, every council feed. And just like that, the entire galaxy saw the truth. The Varnari's secrets were no longer hidden. And humanity? They had just declared war. The Varnari's first real mistake. The moment the transmission ended, alarms blared through the station. The Varnari had realized what was happening. But it was too late. The human fleet opened fire, tearing through the station's defenses. This was no longer a covert mission. This was a message that humanity was not prey. They had never been. And now they were hunting the ones who thought they could control them. The war that would change everything. By the time Elias returned to human space, the galaxy was in chaos. The Krell were reassessing their war with the Council. The Belittled were demanding answers. The Council was scrambling to recover from the deception. And the Varnari? They had vanished. Their entire government had gone dark, retreating into deep space. Because now they knew. Humanity wasn't just another species to manipulate. They were something else entirely. Something that had been forged in war. Something that had never once bowed to an empire. And now they were coming. The galaxy was spiraling toward chaos. The moment humanity's data transmission went public, everything changed. The Krell Dominion halted their war efforts. The Belittled Empire withdrew its support for the Council. The Grand Galactic Council was collapsing. And the Varnari Collective? They disappeared. For the first time in thousands of years they were running. But Elias Carter wasn't about to let them escape. Not after everything they had done. Not after everything they had taken. This war wasn't over. It was just getting started. The Council's last debate. The remnants of the Grand Council gathered, their voices shaking with uncertainty. For centuries they had believed in order. Believed that their rule was absolute. And yet, in a matter of days, their entire foundation had been ripped apart. What do we do? One of the Solvar ministers asked, his voice frantic. The Varnari manipulated us. They turned us against each other. Others nodded, their expressions grim. This is war, growled Warlord Drath of the Krell Dominion. And war demands action. But the Vialith representative hesitated. You would charge into battle against a species that has controlled the galaxy from the shadows for millennia? Drath bared his razor-sharp teeth. We don't have a choice. Yes, we do. The room fell silent. All eyes turned toward Elias Carter. Humanity's next move. Elias stood, his expression calm, calculated. The Varnari are not a species of warriors. They do not win battles through fleets or firepower. He let the words sink in. They win with deception. Murmurs spread through the chamber. He was right. The Varnari had never been conquerors. They had been puppet masters. And now the strings were cut. But a cornered predator was the most dangerous kind. And if the Varnari were retreating, that meant they were preparing something far worse. The dark secret of the Varnari Collective. Elias's team had been deciphering the stolen Varnari data for days. Most of it was encrypted beyond recognition. But then, a breakthrough. A single fragmented log. And what they found changed everything. The Varnari weren't just manipulating wars. They were hiding something. Something far older than the Council itself. A secret that no one was supposed to uncover. A name. A location. A warning. Do not let them wake. Elias's breath caught in his throat. The Varnari weren't fighting for power. They were fighting to keep something buried. Something that, if released, would consume the entire galaxy. The race against time. The decrypted coordinates led to a dead system at the edge of known space. A place no species had ever dared to explore. And now Elias was going there. Not with a war fleet. Not with the Council's permission. But with a single small strike team. Because if he was right, then this war was never about humans. It was about what came before them. And humanity had just stumbled into something far bigger than itself. The Forgotten World. The mission was silent. A single stealth ship weaving through uncharted space. Elias and his team descended onto the dead planet, their weapons drawn. The surface was ancient, cracked and barren. But beneath it, something was waiting. They found it buried deep beneath the rock. A structure that defied logic. A ruin that wasn't Varnari, or Krell, or anything recorded in galactic history. And at the center? A sealed chamber pulsing with energy. A prison. Elias's pulse raced. The Varnari hadn't just been manipulating wars. They had been guarding something. And now Elias had just found it. The horror they were never supposed to find. The chamber opened. A low hum filled the air, sending a chill through Elias's spine. Lights flickered to life, revealing walls covered in ancient writing. The symbols were unfamiliar. But the warning was clear. They are not dead. They are dreaming. Elias stepped closer, his breath shallow. And then the ground shook. A voice whispered through the air. Not through comms. Not through translation devices. But directly into his mind. You are not the first. Elias froze. The presence was massive. Ancient. Unfathomable. And very much awake. The galaxy's greatest lie. The Varnari hadn't been manipulating history for power. They had been doing it to keep something contained. A force so terrible that the entire galactic order had been built to keep it hidden. And humanity? They had just broken the seal. The whisper returned, stronger this time. Your kind has fire. Pause. Let us see if it burns. And then, the entire planet began to shake. The ground trembled. The ancient prison had been opened. And now something was waking up. Something older than the Council. Something older than the Varnari. Something the galaxy had forgotten for a reason. Elias Carter stood frozen, watching as the walls of the chamber pulsed with energy, symbols shifting, warping, rewriting themselves as a presence filled the air. A presence that should not exist. The Varnari's final secret. The Varnari fleet appeared above the dead world moments later. Their ships were silent. No threats. No weapons fire. waiting. And then a single transmission came through. A face Elias recognized. High Executor Vetra of the Vernari Collective. Her voice was calm, emotionless. "We warned you?" Elias's jaw tightened. "You didn't warn anyone. You manipulated the entire galaxy to hide this." Vetra's expression didn't change. "Would you have listened if we had told you the truth?" Pause. Then she spoke words that shook him to his core. "We did not build this prison." Elias stared. "Then who did?" Vetra's eyes darkened. "The ones who came before us. The ones who lost." The entity awakens. The chamber exploded with light. Elias staggered back, shielding his eyes as the energy coalesced into a form. Not a body. Not flesh. But something vast. A being made of shifting light and shadow, its form never the same for more than a moment. And then, it spoke. Not with sound, but with thought. Directly into his mind. "Your kind was not meant to be here." Elias exhaled slowly. Too late. The entity studied him. And then, it laughed. Not with mockery, but with something else. Recognition. "Ah." Pause. "You remind me of them." Elias's pulse spiked. "Who?" The entity's form shifted again, flickering like a dying star. "The ones who tried to stand before the storm." It turned its gaze upward, toward the Vernari fleet waiting in orbit. "They failed?" "The choice that decides the future." Vetra's voice cut in over the comms. "We cannot allow it to leave this world." Elias's mind raced. The Vernari had been guarding this place for thousands of years. Had they been protecting the galaxy? Or had they simply been keeping their own power intact? And the entity, what was it really? A destroyer? A conqueror? Or something worse? Elias had a choice. Keycap one side with the Vernari. Help them reseal the prison. Keep the entity locked away, burying the truth forever. Keycap two, let it go. Let the galaxy face what had been hidden from them. Let the universe change. And then, before he could answer, the entity spoke again. "You are afraid. But you are not like them." Elias narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" The entity shifted, its form stabilizing, just for a moment. Was watching him now, measuring him. And then it smiled. "Because you are human?" The final battle that never happened. The Vernari fleet charged weapons. The entity glowed brighter. And Elias made his decision. "No." Vetra's voice was sharp. "Carter? You don't get to decide what the galaxy remembers?" His voice was steel. "Not anymore." The entity watched carefully. Then for the first time it bowed. A gesture of respect. And then, it vanished. Not through force. Not through war. Simply, because humanity had done what no species before them had. They had not tried to control it. They had simply let it decide. The new galactic order. The aftermath was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Grand Council collapsed completely. The Krell withdrew, choosing to rule themselves. The Vialith followed. And the Vernari Collective? They were broken. Their web of lies unraveled. Their control over history? Gone. And humanity? Humanity was no longer an underdog. They were something else now. Something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had won not through war, but through understanding. And in the end, that was more terrifying than any fleet. Epilogue, the final transmission. A year later, Elias Carter sat in his new office. Not as a representative. Not as an ambassador. But as the leader of a new galactic order. Humanity had not taken power. They had simply been given it. Because when the dust settled, when the battles ended, they were the only species left that the others trusted. And in the dark void of space beyond known systems, something watched. Something ancient. And it whispered just once. "We will meet again, human." Then silence. And Elias smiled.